After already having been very impressed with the car on-road, iCaur has now organized a little playground for us to have a little play in their new baby, the iCaur 03 EV. So now we are about to set off into what iCaur calls its little playground, which they've set up here in Wanutama. Now, what we're going to do is there are 3 exercises we're going to do. Firstly, being a water wading test, where we'll be able to go down into a 370 millimeter depth. This car's total overall wading capacity is about to 450. Following which, there will be a roller test, which is designed to test this car's traction control system in order to figure out whether or not it's able to move the power as and where needed. And then lastly, we have an axle articulation test, which is in order to show off this car's excellent torsional rigidity. So now we are going to move into the water wading test. Now they've put in some 10,000 liters of water for us to play with today. And I'm told that we are here now in order to line the car up. A spotter will become available. And as that happens, it's going to move slowly through the water. So we're good to go? Cool. No, not yet?
Just wait for the spotter.
Ah, right. So this should give me a little bit more time to talk to you about this car. So if you have not seen the prior video, you will know that, or you should know at least, that the iCaur 03 is an all-electric off-roader, the first of its kind in Malaysia, mind you. So this demonstration is mostly to show that this car is indeed a proper off-roader despite not having an engine. Now, of course, there will be a range extender EV later, but primarily these are the cars that will launch first. So now the spotter is in place. We are going to set off very gently up the ramp. Okay, and gentle throttle input. Now, because this car is all electric, naturally it does require a pretty steady right foot. It doesn't sort of creep forward all on its own. And now we're going to move into the water itself, where we've also got some people splashing water up on us just to make this a little bit more interesting. Now, this is currently about 370 millimeters, which of course is not nearly the maximum that this car can do, but it's a pretty good demonstration of just how deep this car can go if necessary. So now we're going to move a little bit further down. The brakes are slightly grabby as we move downwards, but the approach angle on this car, which is some 28 degrees if I recall correctly, does mean that these issues are, or rather this is not an issue at all. The turning circle on this car is also quite interesting. Because this car is naturally all electric, the front wheels can move at a much tighter radius compared to internal combustion vehicles. And as a result, it means that your turning circle in a car like this is genuinely not that bad, which is also very helpful when you are off-roading, because naturally you'll be going through some very tight scenarios. So you want your car to be able to maneuver itself in between trees, for example. So now as we move into a roller test, here we're going to demonstrate this car's ability to move its torque from front to rear. Now, because this is a dual motor unit, the power can only really move from the front to rear axle, not side to side. There are some limitations to this, but ultimately iCaur wants to demonstrate the fact that this car is indeed still very, very capable. So now that we are at a point where there is very little traction, the car is still able to move that power around without any fuss whatsoever. In fact, it is nearly impossible to tell that this car is going through any sort of difficulty at all. So now we're going into our last portion, which is where we'll test this car's wheel articulation and also the overall torsional rigidity. Now, because the iCaur 03 will come as standard with a fantastic 360-degree camera, even though we're going through some relatively tight spaces right now, I'm doing so with a pretty... We're going through this with a pretty good amount of confidence because, again, I can see exactly what's going on. So now as I line up for the wheel articulation and torsional rigidity test, this is a fantastic demonstration of just how stiff this car is. Now, when it comes to off-roaders, it's important that these cars don't flex too much when when one wheel is cocked up in the air, or in this case, potentially 2 wheels are cocked up in the air. And more importantly, when there is a wheel that is suspended, that power needs to be moved to a wheel that actually has traction. So now we're going to do this very gently. I do have an instructor to my left who will no doubt scream at me if I do something wrong, but ultimately this should be a relatively harmless test. This has all naturally been tested in order to show off the iCaur 03, and it's doing this again without any fuss whatsoever. Compared to traditional all-wheel drive internal combustion vehicles, there's normally a little bit of drama as the power moves from left to right, as the various torque vectoring systems move that power and shuffle that power left to right within a single axle. But on this car, there seem to be no issues whatsoever. Now, I'm not sure if you can tell, but the car is slightly bobbing because we have the left rear wheel in the air. And now, a demonstration that's been popularized by the Australians is that this door should be able to open and shut without any issue whatsoever, showing the fact this car has excellent torsional rigidity, meaning that there is zero flex within the frame of the body. And now as we move off here, the power is being moved between the three wheels that have traction, and good lord. And once again, this is ultimately demonstrating the fact that the iCaur 03 is perhaps one of the most capable electric vehicles when it comes to tackling things like this. When it comes to EVs, we normally think of them as city cars, where they don't really do much aside from potter about in town and get stuck in traffic jams. But the iCaur brand is here to demonstrate the fact that just because it's electric doesn't mean that it isn't fun. Now that I'm done explaining this, I get to do this all over again, and hopefully with a little bit better pace perhaps. We'll see. So now we're going to do all of this again. The reason we're doing this is because there is a fourth challenge that has been decommissioned temporarily, but will be back online, available for public viewing tomorrow. But for us, since we can't do that, they're making us do this again, which I suppose is, for better or worse, it shows that this car should be relatively capable and decently tough, etc. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the iCaur 03 will launch in Malaysia primarily as an EV. The REV will only come a little bit later, but that car will ultimately use an internal combustion engine to provide a little bit more in terms of range, and we're told that that car should be able to do about 1,300 kilometers on one tank and one full charge. Now, as we do this again, this car's approach and departure angles are pretty good. The breakover angle on this car is also relatively impressive, which puts it on par, in fact, with some old Land Rover Freelanders, which I think is pretty cool for a brand new car, especially for an EV in this day and age. Whoa. Now, all of that groaning wasn't me. That was due to the continual torture that these cars are being subject to. Naturally, the brakes are going to start screaming and wailing just a little bit. So now we're going back on the rollers again. This time I want to go a little bit more aggressively to see if I can get this car to act up a little bit more. But again, no matter what I do, it seems to be absolutely determined to make this as fuss-free and drama-free as possible. This is also a similar experience to what we saw when we first drove the Jayco J6 on an off-road track at M4 track. And so this is broadly in line to what we've seen from other all-wheel drive vehicles from the Amoda, or rather from the Chery Automotive Group. Now, lastly, we're going to do that wheel articulation test once again, just to show off this car's torsional rigidity. And again, I want to try and see if I can upset this car's torque vectoring a little bit more, although it seems, again, determined not to. So now as we line up once again to do this, the fact that we can do this in an EV without your traditional limited slip differential moving power from left to right, with power only moving between the front and rear wheels, and more importantly, this car is able to do up to 55% gradients, if I'm not mistaken, meaning that ultimately this is a far more capable EV than anything else we've seen before. And of course, the iCaur brand is not going to be a one-trick pony. Shortly after the iCaur 03, we expect to see the iCaur V23 arrive in the market shortly after that, allowing a slightly more approachable sort of vehicle with a slightly more approachable price tag to boot. And so we expect to see the iCaur brand make quite a big splash here. Now that concludes our little test drive of this car, and I must say that overall I am quite impressed. And while a lot of these media experiences tend to be limited to, obviously, members of the press, this test drive experience, however, will be open to the public. And more importantly, you'll have the opportunity to not only sample these cars yourself, but also see what else is coming from the iCaur brand. Now, unlike a lot of other previews or events like this will actually be open to the public, which means that starting from today through the weekend, if you'd like to learn more about the iCaur 03's capabilities when the going gets tough, and more importantly, if you'd like to learn more about iCaur as a brand and check out the REEV that is happening right here in the old wing of Wanutama through the weekend. As you can see, it makes stuff like this look absolutely effortless. Now, if you'd like to learn more about the iCaur 03's on-road capabilities, you can check out our earlier video that we've already published up here. And if you'd like to learn more about iCaur as a brand, again, you can do it yourself. But more importantly, that concludes our media preview of the iCaur 03 driven off-road in Wanutama. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, hit the little bell icon so notified every time we make a new upload. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and WhatsApp. All the links are in the description below. Thank you so much for watching. We will catch you in the next one. Take care, stay safe, and always have fun.